to study an opening well. And you can study it well. I mean, you do require an engine only from like a particular point, and in order to reach this point, you can, you know, you can study all the openings without any engines at all. Okay, so let's get to the final two games, final stage, and the first game I was playing black. It turned out to be the crucial game, and of course, it actually this match went quite similar to the previous two matches against Maria Muzachuk and Valentina Gunina, where I struggled in the first game, struggled a lot, but then I turned the tables around, or rather my opponent turned the tables around, and I was lucky, of course, at some point, and I was able to win even though my position was completely hopeless at one particular point in this particular game. But let's get going. So about starting the opening here, my opponent out prepared me and played the Catalan defense. I chose the line that I normally play, and she made this bishop e3, quite a strangely looked move. Somehow I just completely missed this move in my preparation. It was usually white plays knight c3 or e3 or even knight b2 d2. Valentina Gunina in the Russian superfinal played with me queen to c2, but there are two relatively new, bishop g5 is another option, but there are two relatively new moves that appeared just recently in a few last months, which is bishop to e3, and another move that I will need to study is queen to d2. There are some games with these moves, and for some reason, I'm not a professional anymore, but for some reason bishop e3 somehow escaped from my view and from my husband's view, so I had completely no idea about this move and was playing on my own from this moment. Although there were many moves, many games played, and what surprised me after the game, that there was even a game in the women's Gibraltar Grand Prix series that I covered and watched quite carefully. Somehow I haven't noticed this line. I don't know how it could have happened, but that's what I had. So I played knight e5, which is a good move. Queen to c1. So the game that I was talking about was the game between Dinara Salvakasova and Maria Muzachuk in Gibraltar this year in May, and white played bishop g5 instead, and actually lost this game. But Alexandra was prepared better. She probably had a look at this game and played a queen to c1. And here I took on e3. Apparently that's not the most precise way to play. It's better to wait the move queen takes c4 and then take on e3, thus weakening white's pawn structure. Because when I took on e3, white took back. I played bishop e7, and here after rook c1, white wins this pawn anyway. Back RSS Rahan, thank you so much for the prime sub. So white wins this pawn back, and they have everything that a good Catalan player can dream of. A very strong bishop, a good development, and some positional pressure on my position. So rook takes c4, bishop d7. You see that I'm kind of passive, but I was not really worried a lot. And actually, after a3, a5, knight b2, d2, a4, I like my position during the game. Knight e5. Here is a very interesting moment. I could have played knight takes e5 and then play c5, because bishop b7 is not really very dangerous, because I can play rook b8 and then win the pawn on b2. It could have been an interesting choice, c5 or bishop b5 here. Both are quite equally interesting. Instead I played knight to a5 and bishop to b5. My pieces are developing sideways, but that happens. And here again, rook a1, I played rook a6. Okay, I like those sideways maneuvers, but probably c6 would have been better. Because yes, my position is kind of passive, but I don't have weaknesses and my pieces stand well. I will bring my rook to the d file, will start attacking the d4 pawn, so I like my position here. c6 was quite a good option with the idea to play queen c7, then rook d8 later on. Instead I played rook to a6, which is okay, but it's not clear whether my rook is needed here, especially since white always has this knight e4 attacking move and I need to protect my rook all the time. But again, it doesn't really make a huge difference where my rook is standing. For example, here I could have played queen c7 or probably better queen a8 to have rook d8 in case of knight e4. And I think my position is also quite holdable. My rook is on the d file, and if the knight goes away, I will bring my knight to b3. Yes, white is a little bit better, but nothing serious. That's what I was supposed to do. Sometimes you need to wait patiently, and somehow it's not about myself, so I played forward. I moved my pawns forward, and that's not the right moment and not the right place to move these pawns forward, because white has several good options. Alexandra made one of the strongest moves in this position, which is b4. We exchanged, and here she is winning a pawn. She's winning a pawn, but again, the idea is that if I take on e5, she takes, and queen a5 with double attack is not winning because she plays knight f7. She takes the rook. I take with the check, but then my bishop is hanging and queen e8 checkmate is threatening. So unfortunately, I'm not winning any material here. I played rook to d3 and I'm pawn down, as I mentioned. But again, in the game, I thought that I have two bishops for this pawn. One of my pawns is an advanced pawn, so I thought that I do have some counterplay. Here I hesitated. I was choosing between the line with f takes e5 and getting into an endgame with two bishops and with a pawn down. I decided to opt for the line I chose in the game and for this particular position because I saw this c5 move, which I liked very much. My idea is quite simple to bring my pawn as close to the promotional square as possible and hopefully promote it into a queen. One move. Well, it sounds nice, but it's not that easy. And of course, white has a lot of counter ideas and an extra pawn, which is also an advanced pawn. And again, Alexandra played well. She played h5 here, starting to play h6. If I play h6, then this white squares around my king will be very weak. So if knight gets to g6 or queen and bishop battery appears on the diagonal b1, h7 one day, it's gonna be a problem. That's why I decided to ignore white's idea to play c4, which probably is the right move to make. h6, bishop f6. I take on g7, queen h5, and here a very interesting position, like the critical position of the game. I needed to make a choice. I saw queen e8 line, again trying to get into an endgame with two bishops, with a pawn down, but with some compensation. And I saw queen f6. Another move, also putting pressure on the f-file, but the problem is that after queen f6, I saw that knight g5 is possible, and if I take on f2, I can protect my h7 square by playing queen c2. I felt that it was quite, it was quite risky. But since I didn't see why I'm losing here, I decided to give it a go. And that is the position that happened in the game. E4, H6. And like, it's a position that I think we're going to see in many tactical manuals from now on. It's white to win. It's white to move and win. And of course, if Alexandra would have found this continuation, she would have won this game, and well, 99% she would have won the match. Yes, it does look winning. It does look winning, and somehow, and after the game, when I got back home, and everyone, of course, knew the winning move and the winning continuation, because the computer suggests it as the first, as the strongest continuation. When you see this move, it suddenly becomes very obvious and very easy, and you wonder why I did not see it during the game. I did not see it during the game, and I was similar to Alexandra, calculating the lines with knight f7, knight e6, and we were getting closer to time trouble because it's move 36. I still believe that Alexandra had enough minutes to find the solution. Because again, if you see this position and if you are asked find the way to win, you will find it. But during practical game, it's another story. And she didn't find it. And she played knight f7, and I was relieved. And again, it's a very funny thing, because I did not see the correct continuation for white, but I felt that there might be something. And I felt a relief after knight f7 check. And actually, that's exactly how the evaluation is. So here it's +7, and after knight f7, it's suddenly a draw. Yes, so my, internal evaluation bar worked very well in this particular case. And yes, indeed, I see that one of my spectator is playing very strongly, is very strong, and suggested rook d1, which is indeed the strongest move. And a very nice idea. When you are trying to create an attack, and you're attacking your opponent, and we see that white is doing very well and getting closer to black's king, but there's still not enough power. So you need to look for ways to bring more your pieces into attack. And this is a piece that is absent. Right now it's doing nothing. And you can just make the simple moves, rook d1, rook d6, and it's over. It's over. It's completely lost. Why it might be difficult to make this move? Probably because of queen takes d1. And it might be difficult to evaluate this position, but my king is very weak. And queen takes g5 is not the only move. White can play e5 instead and bring the bishop to d5. What else? What else could have been? Let's see, king to g8. If I play king to g8 here, well, white has queen to g6 and then rook to d7, and probably that's the move that Alexandra didn't see. I'm almost sure she saw this idea, but probably in this situation she saw that I can play king g8, and after queen g6 I can take on g5, and after rook d7 I can play queen b2. It's already like how many moves ahead? She needs to calculate. 1, 2, 3. 3 moves ahead. Like, not a very long line, but she's a piece down. She doesn't risk anything. She can always give a perpetual, but there is a very strong e5 move, opening up the bishop, covering up my queen, and if I take on e5, she plays bishop d5 with the checkmate. And well, again, when you see that computer suggests rook d1 and it writes +11, it's very easy to calculate the consequences. But when you're in the middle of the game, you're in time pressure, you've been playing for months already, you're under enormous not only time pressure but nervous pressure as well, psychological pressure, and you see this rook d1 and you see king g8 and you see that h takes g5 will follow, you'll be a piece down, and nobody tells you during the game that it's a winning, right, continuation, and you're still looking for like more forced line, and you tend to make moves with checks, you tend to opt for them. But unfortunately for Alexandra, after knight f7 check, I go to g8, and the problem here is that after knight takes h6, actually that's the line I think Alexandra was supposed to go. It's just a perpetual. It's a perpetual, and I was very surprised indeed, because when I saw her play knight f7, I was expected to see knight takes h6 with perpetual, and with the match going on to the second round, to the second game. Instead, she played queen d5. I did not see this move, I did not expect it, I was only calculating knight takes h6, queen d5, but here I made like a very, very strong move, a very beautiful move, and the move that Alexandra most likely missed. Most likely missed, and since when you play queen d5, you expect your opponent to protect from this discovered check that is about to happen. Instead, I just ignored it. I simply ignored it. I played c3, and again, there are many ways to make a draw for white, but Alexandra somehow thought her evaluation bar did not work correctly at this exact moment. Because normally when you're playing a game and you're a strong grandmaster, you understand how dangerous your attack is, how well your position is, and this evaluation bar is like similar to this evaluation bar next to the board. It works in our mind. We feel that we overpassed, or we are pressing, or we're about to win or to lose, we need to fight for a draw. Sometimes we forget to evaluate the position, and it's so tense and complex that we make mistakes, but these cases are rare. And this was one of these rarest cases, especially with Alexandra. I think she's the one who is a very reasonable player. She would make a draw if she believes that this position is equal. No problems whatsoever that for her that she just had a winning advantage. There are some players who would do anything in their power until they have a theoretical chance to win, especially taking into consideration the fact that she was just winning or felt just winning. But Alexandra, I truly believe that she thought that she's winning. My king is too weak. It is weak, but white's king is very weak as well, and I do have a lot of counter ideas. Knight to f7. There were easier ways to make a draw, something like knight g4 and queen h5, queen d5. Queen to f2 I played, queen to d2 was stronger, because it already... But okay, it's very hard to choose in between in time trouble. And here she should have made the draw again. Should have played queen h5, king g6, king g8 is the only move, knight h6, take on h6, and here just a draw. But instead, again, she decided, I don't know, it's the 40th move, it's the last move before time control. Probably, once again, she missed my reply. She thought that I would go to h8, but in that case, it feels that she should have enough compensation and enough counter chances. But actually, I have a stronger move. My king, unexpectedly, goes forward, and it stands, I mean, it feels pretty comfortable here. Rook h1 has been played, and oof, I spent a lot of time here. I tried to find a worst way to win. I like the idea bishop c4 so much, because here it feels like I'm just a move away from winning. Because rook h8 is such an unpleasant choice. I just need to go away from this checks from the queen, but somehow I'm not able to. I'm not able to, and I spend so much time trying to make this line work, but it just doesn't. It just doesn't work, and I was not able to look a little bit further to some other moves. C2 was winning here. Of course, I considered this move, but I just didn't realize that after knight h3, I can simply play queen e3, and knight e4 is not possible because I have rook takes f4. And my position is completely winning here. Instead, I played queen to d4, which is quite logical, but in that case, we reached an endgame, which is closer to a draw. I'm still pressing, even though we both have 2 pawns, but it's very close to a draw. And for example, during the game, I didn't really like a5. I thought that a5 is the strongest move here, then d6, then bishop takes b7, and she gets the same position as in the game, but with the pawn on a5, and it changes a lot. Because after d6, I grabbed the pawn, I played rook d4, and suddenly you see my pawn on c3 has pushed so close to the promotional square, and her king is quite far. So the game continued, and it's not very easy. I have this idea with c2 rook d1 all the time. She needs to protect herself from, and it seems to be like a very drawish endgame, especially considering that a rook and a bishop versus rook is a drawn endgame. And indeed it was a draw, but she should have started getting to this rook and bishop versus rook endgame immediately. King to e1 and bishop to d1. And of course, in this particular case, I would play for 50 moves, trying to use the fact that the king is kind of already almost at the edge of the board, trying to get this famous Philidor position, but theoretically it's a draw. Instead, Alexandra made a move that also looks quite logical, and there was another way, by the way, d7, I think, and then bishop g4, another way to get into this theoretically drawn position. But instead, Alexandra made this king e3 move. That is a crucial mistake. The position is lost after that, believe me or not. Rook d3 check, which is very precise, king e2, and I take on d6, and after king e1 here, it's already too late, because I have time to bring my king to e3. Probably a little bit more precise would have been king f4, because when I played king d4, there is a possibility to play bishop g4, but of course I don't have to take on g4, I just retreat my bishop, and I will bring my king to e3 and win the game. It doesn't really change the evaluation of the position here, and after rook d1, bishop d1, I played king d3, and I saw that I'm winning. In this particular case, I played rook g6, threatening with the checkmate, and then I give a check and play rook g1. That's I saw during the game, and I knew that the position with the kings standing opposite each other with the rook versus bishop is also a winning position. But somehow here completely collapsed, because in all these positions with a rook versus bishop, there are some kind of there is a play with rooks moving all around bishops, and I just did not realize that I'm already having a completely winning position here. I'm winning just one move. So I made a few circles of honor. Instead, I played rook d2, and probably my chat is so strong that you will notice the winning move immediately. Do you see how I win here? Yeah, exactly, Georgie. Instead, I don't know why, I calculated, well, rook c6 is bad, right? Well, it's not winning because of king d1. Rook h6 is not winning because of king f1, and then rook h1, king g2. And somehow I forgot that there is one more move. There are two sides of the board in chess. Rook a6, and rook a6 was simply winning. And that is a position I finally achieved, but I made this circle of honor. I didn't spoil anything, but it was funny. Anyway, it was funny. Okay, bishop d5. She played. Yeah, there is a more beautiful line, which is shown in every single endgame manual, which starts with bishop d7, rook f7, bishop e6, rook e7. And using the fact that the bishop cannot really go to f5, d5, g4, and c4. Well, c4 just rook c7 for the same with bishop g4. But if it goes to d5, then there is a discovered check. The bishop is kind of obliged to go to b3. Then I go rook b7, bishop c2, and here we go again, the same position, rook a7. In the game, Alexandra played bishop e6. It doesn't change the evaluation of the position, but we reached the position with the bishop on c2 once again. And here, finally, I realized that rook a6, I have a winning move, because it was such, I was starting to panic, because I knew that this position is a winning position. I've had this position in my career once already. I won with the time with the colors reversed, but somehow I didn't see the winning move, and well, the choice is limited. And I was panicking. Yeah, I've had some unpleasant moments during this particular moment, but luckily I managed to see this idea. I managed to say to myself, okay, rook h6 is a draw, rook c6 is king d1, but there should be something. There should be something. Yeah. This something is rook a6, and I found this move. I made this move, and Alexandra resigned. It was a huge relief. It was a very tense game, and of course I was happy to win it. And that meant that I need just a draw. I need just a draw. Rook h6 is not winning here because of king f1. If we move this position one to the side, if the bishop would have been on b2, then rook h6 would be the right choice. But here, unfortunately, this side is not long enough. What about, well, after bishop d1, rook a1 follows, and that's a very good example of Zugzwang. White has to only move, and this move brings to losing the bishop. And if white, well, rook a1 is a checkmating threat, and if white plays king d1, unfortunately the bishop is blocking the way, and white is forced to give up the bishop. Yeah, it's quite easy, but still, I still enjoy this kind of easy positions a lot, and it gives you, I mean, it's suggested, it's advisable to go over this such easy positions when you study chess and know them by heart, because it improves your feeling of the pieces, coordination of the pieces. Okay, well, that was a huge battle, and one more classical game of the tournament was ahead of me, and I was playing white, and Alexandra was in a difficult situation because she needed to win. And one of her main weapons right now is the Berlin defense with black. And well, if you need to win, you cannot play the Berlin defense because there are many lines that are forced draws. So she opted for another one of her openings, which is the French defense. She also plays the Caracan. Well, she's a very high caliber player. She can play any openings, and basically unexpected anything. But she played the French defense. The only drawback in this particular situation of the French defense is that I can opt for the exchange line, but I decided to play knight d2, the line that I'm playing since my childhood, and I feel the most comfortable probably with. That's why I opted for this line. And surprisingly for me, Alexandra went to the lines she normally plays. But in this particular line, again, there are many exchanges in the center. And the position is quite simple. And when you play for a win, it seems that you kind of try to complicate. You try to keep the center closed, to keep as many pieces and pawns on the board as possible, while here we've already exchanged a lot of pieces and there are many more exchanges to come. Knight b to d7, Here I opted for queen e2, which I don't think is the most precise way to play. Okay, but anyway, it's better to start with castle, that's what I mean, because after that you can opt for several other lines, and here you kind of limit yourself with queen e2, queen c7, castle, and here, surprisingly, for myself, Alexandra made a bad move. And there are several good moves for black. This line is considered to be quite drawish. Bishop e7, knight c5, even a6 I think is better than b6. She played b6, and I've had one game with this particular line and with this particular move several years ago. The problem with b6, well, it's the main plan for black to play b6 and bishop e7, and it's considered to be already like good position if your bishop is on b7. But the problem here is that I play knight e4, and black, well, it's a little bit slow. If they play bishop b7, I take on f6, and she needs to take with the pawn, because after knight f6 I give a check, and then I play knight e5, and she's in serious trouble. But after g takes f6, she has damaged pawn structure. If she castles in the future, her king might become like a serious trouble. Might end up. And what else? I played bishop to e4. I thought that, again, in this particular situation, exchanges as many pieces as possible is a good sign for me. And here is a very interesting moment. First, when she played rook c8, I saw a possibility of exchanging a pair of bishops, but getting opposite colored bishops on the board. And I opted for this particular line, but exchanging on b7 would have been much stronger. Actually, here I play bishop f4, and I play rook d1, bishop d6 later on, and black is struggling, because if she cannot keep the king in the center as in the game. If she plays like this, okay, I can even play knight d4. Her king is quite weak. If she plays bishop g7, I can play bishop d6, and the only choice is to go back, but then I can just repeat the moves. So bishop takes b7 would have been stronger. Instead, I decided to play the position with opposite colored bishops, having in mind, understanding that a draw is a very good result for me in this particular case. And here again, a very difficult choice to make. Of course, after queen takes e5, we're getting to a position that is very close to a draw. But I thought that my position is better here. And her king is in the center, so I shall avoid exchanging the queens. And I did not, I did make the strongest move in the position, but queen takes e5 was, of course, a very tempting alternative. Queen to d3, f4, I'm starting the attack. Since I kept the queens on the board, it's quite logical that my plan is connected with the attack. And here, I don't know why. Well, I know why, but I should have played f5. I was afraid to open up the bishop, but I should have realized that after queen e5, I just protect the pawn on h2 by playing queen to h3, very strong move, and rook e1 is coming. This one, or is it, with that rook, and black is simply losing, just collapsing, because rook e1, bishop c4, and now you feel the power of my pieces, you feel the drawback of the king being in the center, and I'm simply winning after queen e5. So I have no idea what Alexandra was planning to do after f5, because if she just makes any move, I can take on e6 and then start attacking this pawn. If she plays e5, well, you see that this pawn structure is much better for me. Her bishop is closed, her pawns are kind of not flexible anymore, and I can start playing using white squares. So f5 was a very strong move here. Unfortunately for me, I missed it. Again, I made good moves, and here Alexandra surprised me a lot. I considered h4 is like the move to make, because it's her only chance for counterplay. Most likely I would play h3, although I was calculating rook f2e1 with the idea to sacrifice the bishop. The idea is correct, but the problem is that after rook to e1, black has a very strong move queen to f5. And I don't know what to do here. I need to protect the pawn, so I need to get back with the rook to f1. So I think after h4, I would most likely play h3 in the game. Instead, she played rook c8, the move that surprised me a lot, because, well, she played h5, and I thought that her plan is to attack on the h file. She made this move queen f5, but my rook is still on f1. I doubled the rooks on the d file, and if she plays bishop c5, the problem is that I will just exchange all the rooks and we'll get to opposite colored bishops endgame. Bishop c7, however, is not the best move here, and you see, in those particular tournament situations, it's kind of hard to make the strongest move sometimes in the position, because bishop c5, I think in 99% of the cases Alexandra would opt for this move, but the problem here is that she looks at this position and she understands that there is no way to win, and she needed to win because queen c2 is coming, and then the queens will be exchanged. There is no way to avoid exchanging the queens or the perpetual. Some perpetual will come, so she cannot allow herself to play bishop c5. She needs to make another move, and when she makes another move, then I just get a better position. Again, here queen takes g4 was quite a reasonable option, but I decided to play for a win because I thought that after queen a6 I'm winning. Well, that's not true. Somehow I thought that queen a3 is almost checkmating, and I do win a pawn. I do win a pawn, but black gets some counterplay for that. And I think here I should have played okay, before is a fine move, but I should have played bishop a4 was a very nice move to make, transferring the bishop to the longest diagonal. And after h3 I can secure the position with g3, close it, put the bishop on f3, and I have a wonderful position. Bishop a4 was really the move to make. Instead I made this move, which is an okay move, but after h3 black gets some counterplay. I think I still needed to play g3 and keep my position closed, and play bishop a4 and rook d3. But with the pawn on h3, I don't know, it's kind of some checkmating threats are possible. That's why I took on h3, queen g8, and here suddenly I was going to play queen f3. And I think that was the strongest move, but I started disliking the plan with doubling on the c file and attacking my pawn, and if I play rook d3, then bishop e4 is possible. It's not that dangerous as it's looking. Instead, I should have found bishop f4 and queen g2, which is a very strong move, and here I'm winning. So queen b7 is almost obliged, but in that case, of course, black is not trying to win anymore. Instead, I miscalculated a little bit. I played bishop b3. I went for this line, and I completely missed bishop takes f4. But it was lucky. It was a lucky miss. I was calculating only rook g8 and then queen f3 I was going to play, and actually that's how the game could have ended, with a draw. But I missed bishop takes f4, and Alexandra made this move. Oh, and boy, I was so scared about this endgame. I had no idea how to relate it. It's so double-edged. Black pawns going forward. I do have some compensation, of course, but luckily, again, we made the 40th move. I had a chance to calculate, to relax a little bit, to take my time, and I realized that it's not that bad as it seems. In fact, it's even better for me, and it's black who needs to make a draw. King e7, a4. Well, I was expecting to see bishop takes h2 move, but here again I combine the plan with going a very strong plan that I actually made happen in the game with bringing my king to b5 and then covering this g1 a7 diagonal and bringing my pawn forward. And I have also the h pawn, which is also quite annoying. So if the king, the black's king, goes to the queen side, I start pushing the h pawn. If the king goes to the king side, I run with my king to b5 and bring the pawns forward. And it's a draw. I think it's a draw after a bishop takes h2. But in the game, Alexandra miscalculated, misplayed, and I did everything correctly, surprisingly. Surprise, surprise. I could have even played a little bit better. Here I could have started with bishop d5, which is winning completely, much sooner. But bishop d1 is fine as well. And we get to a queen's endgame, surprisingly. We get to the queen's endgame with 3 extra pawns for me, which is, of course, completely winning. After here, yes, she could have played e2, but in that case, I play queen to c6, and apparently I'm checkmating her king with my queen and bishop. That's why she played f1 queen, and here I offered to draw, even though my position is completely winning. But as you can understand, it was not very important for me with what score to win this match, 2-0 or 1.5 to a half. It was much more important to secure this win and yeah, to win the title. So that's it. That's it. The chess part is over of this World Cup. Tournaments ahead of me. Of course, that's the tournament to remember. That's definitely one of the huge highlights of my career, to win this event. And well, I'm very glad that you listened to my streams and to my commentary about these games, this tournament, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Yes, well, that's it. That's it for today. I'm going to run now to prepare for something new. I might do one more stream on the World Cup in Russian. One more stream. I'm not sure I will do it. If I will, probably I might do it in the coming days. But anyway, there are going to be more tournaments, more games, more matches, and more streams, of course. More streams, and I'm always happy to see all of you here. You are very, very welcome. And I'm going to run now. The online Olympiad is about to get started. My Russian national team will be playing in this Olympiad. So I need to start preparing. I need to start preparing for this event, and I plan to play a few more games, more classical over-the-board games before that. I will keep you posted as always, so just make sure to sign up to my Discord. And yeah, okay guys, thank you so much for your attention, for your support. I'm going to send a raid to Alexandra Samaganova, who, I remind you once again, covered all the matches and all the games on my stream during my participation in the World Cup. So she was a great help. She let my channel survive and not be abandoned. So that's the problem with my channel, that it's really hard to combine both professional uh, tournaments career and my streaming career, and as well as working for, well, I know, okay, you will discuss this Fortnite, not a problem. She's all alone and she needs your support. I don't think it's a problem. If you ask her, she will tell her about covering the World Cup. I'm sure you will do great with Alexandra. And well, yeah, and that's it. That's it. It's what I was saying, that it's very hard to combine everything, and any help is appreciated and any support. So stay tuned. More to come. Thank you so much for watching. Say hello to Alexandra. I'm sure her channel needs your support as well, because it's a pity to stream for 9 viewers. So here we go, here you go. Take care, guys, play chess, and we'll see each other very soon. Bye bye.